Alright, so I wanted to do a video today talking about kind of the do's and don'ts of going to a rabbit show. So I'm inside my house today because it's pitch black outside. I do have lights out in the rabbitry, but I just didn't want to be out there. I was like, I'll come inside. But what's a rabbit video without rabbits? So I did bring in a little red New Zealand baby. So I've just been cuddling with her. But for your do's and your don'ts, this isn't like a prepping for your first show or anything. This is you've already prepped, you're there, what's your etiquette? So first thing, obviously, go to a show. I remember being so nervous for going to my first show. I actually did not bring rabbits with me to my first show. I just went there, walked around, saw what the atmosphere was like. But I had the privilege of having a show that was like 30 minutes away from me, so that made it a lot easier to just go there without rabbits. If I had to drive 2 or 3 hours, I probably wouldn't do that. So go to a show. This is something that probably not to do on your first show. I did, but write for a judge. So I have rare breeds, Creme d'Argents, Triantas. The red New Zealands aren't red, but for the first show with the Creme d'Argents, it was me and one other exhibitor, and judges need somebody to write for them. So that's the person who's taking down the placings of each rabbit. It's a really, really good way to learn a lot about different rabbit breeds, get really up close with the judges to really be able to hear their comments. It's a great way to learn about faults in different rabbits and how to identify those. Don't recommend it for your first time. I did it, but it was a small breed, only me and one other exhibitor. But definitely as you get more comfortable with shows, volunteer to write. There's normally somebody there who can teach you how to write for that judge, or that judge will take a few minutes to tell you how to write. Definitely recommend starting out writing for a smaller breed or a breed that doesn't have a lot of varieties. Speak to breeders while you're there. So there's going to be a whole bunch of local breeders for a bunch of different breeds, and you can get a lot of really good knowledge for them. I personally have never really ran into somebody, if they're on the show hall or if they're in the show hall, who wouldn't talk to me. Rabbit people are going to these shows. It's like the one opportunity they really have to sit and talk to other rabbit people about rabbits. 95% of them are going to be more than happy to sit down and talk to you about their rabbits. It's also a really good place to buy from local vendors. So at least the shows that I go to pretty much always have a local cage vendor and supply vendor there. So it can be a really good place to pick up carrying cages, water bottles, tattoo supplies, resting mats, feeders, all of that kind of stuff. So definitely recommend going there and seeing if they have a local vendor that you can support. And then once you've kind of perused around, you've already gone in, you've paid your entry fees for your rabbits, and they're actually starting the show. And I've got a notebook here. Actually pay attention to the schedule. So for the shows that I go to, and for most shows, they will have a piece of paper at each of the tables of what rabbits are going to be judged. It won't list a time, but it'll say show A, if it's a multiple shows in one day, it'll say like show A, these 5 breeds are going to be judged at this table. Show B, these 5 breeds are going to be judged at this table. Show C, and so on. There's normally not more than 3 shows in a day. And every single table will have one of those sheets listing what breeds are going to be judged there for which show. Pay attention to that. Keep walking around as the show goes on so that you know, for example, if I'm showing New Zealand's and American Fuzzy Lops are before the New Zealand's, when I see that they have American Fuzzy Lops up, I can run up there, grab my New Zealand's, and I can be ready to put my rabbits on the table as soon as those Fuzzy Lops get done. The last thing you want to do is have them calling over and over again for your breed and you don't hear them. They will not wait for you. They will just go ahead and judge whatever rabbits are actually put up on the table, and then you're not going to get a refund for that. You're just going to be out of that money and you don't get to show your rabbits. So make sure you're paying attention. That can also be a really good reason to make friends with the same people who are in your breed. I know the other Trianta breeder and the New Zealand breeders that are here. I'm really the only Crim Diogen person. Well, there's like one or two other people who are really starting to get into them. One of the other breeders who had them doesn't breed them anymore. Nonetheless, know the other people in your state who go to your regular shows. That way, if they call for red New Zealands, the New Zealand people know me. They can run over them and be like, hey, Courtney, if I'm at the Crim Diogen table, they'll be like, hey, the New Zealands are up. And actually, they'll just put my rabbits up for me if I'm not able to get over there. So that's another really good way, or another really good reason to be familiarized with your other local breeders, is they can help put rabbits up if you have multiple breeds. One really useful tip is in your carriers. So my carriers are either 2-hole carriers or 3-hole carriers. Write on top of the carrier what rabbit goes in what hole. So you can write either their tattoo number, buck or doe, and then put them in the correct order. So for our shows, it's normally senior buck, senior doe, intermediate buck, intermediate doe, junior buck, junior doe. Obviously slash out intermediate if it's a 4-class breed. And that's the order that they're gonna go up on the table. So if you have your rabbits in the carrier in that order, that makes it so much easier to just grab your carrier, grab the rabbit, put them in the coop, and move down the line, versus if you've got a junior doe in your top carrier and then a senior buck in your bottom carrier and you're having to move everything and shuffle everything around. You're just taking up a lot of time and stressing yourself out for no reason. Make sure your carriers are organized and you'll have a much easier life. Also, if your carriers are labeled and for some reason somebody is having to put your rabbits up on the table for you, it makes it easier on them. Or if you're writing for the judge or something and somebody else is taking your rabbits off the table, they also know what hole to put them in the carrier. So it just makes life easier for everybody. It's like hot in here. This little guy's hot. Making me hot. One guaranteed way to guarantee that everybody at a show will love you is to volunteer. I have never been to a show where they didn't want volunteers. I've actually gotten free candy at the last show because I helped volunteer to move a bunch of tables and they had candy for the kids. And at the end of the show, they had leftover candy, so they gave me like a little bag of candy. But volunteering is a really good way to obviously just be helpful and be useful. We always want to try to give back to our local communities, but it's a really good way too to just know the breeders that are around you. The breeders around you are going to be your best source of information and resources and people that you can lean on if things happen. So it's a really, really good way to get in those people's good graces, to understand how shows work, and just have that closer knit community that I think a lot of us are really searching for. This rabbit is so chill. When you do put your rabbits up on the table, make sure you are listening to the judge's feedback. So every time the judge looks at the rabbits, he or she will give their feedback on the strengths and weaknesses of that particular rabbit. That can be really useful to you as a breeder as you're making your evaluations, especially as you're a newer breeder. Having said that, don't take everything that a judge says as absolute gospel. I have had a rabbit place first in show A and then last in show B, right? Like it depends on what the judges are looking for and what type of rabbits they like. So don't cull a rabbit from your breeding program just because it didn't do as good on the table as another rabbit, because you need to look at your breeding program as a whole and what the strengths and weaknesses are of that rabbit. But listening closely to that judge's feedback can help give you a really good starting point in those evaluations. Another thing for shows is arrive early. I say that. I'm somebody who always gets to shows super early, but then I always feel like every single show I go to also starts late. But get there early. It gives you time to look around the showgrounds, know where you have to be, what's parking like. Sometimes it can be a long distance from the parking lot to the actual showgrounds, so then you're lugging rabbits back and forth. The line for check-in can be really long, getting everything settled. I like to give myself at least 30 minutes before showtime starts, like minimum 30 minutes, to be there and be settled. Realistically, just because of my personality, I'm normally closer to an hour before showtime starts, but minimum 30 minutes to get settled and get everything ready and get checked in before the show starts. Now for our list of don'ts. Do not argue with the judge. If you don't agree with a judge's judging decision, there is a formal process you can do through ARBA saying you don't agree with that judge's decision, and that's going to be the proper way to handle that. Don't get into a screaming match in the middle of the showroom. You paid for that judge's opinion, and take it or leave it, but don't sit there and argue with them about it. Another faux pas that people may not understand too is don't tell the judge which rabbit is yours. So it's supposed to be completely anonymous. They don't even look at the ear number when they do their very first look at the rabbits, because they don't want to have a bias there. So don't let them know. Don't be like, oh, that rabbit belongs to that person. Don't make any comments like, oh, that rabbit's a grand champion, or oh, that rabbit's a piece of crap. Just don't make any comments when the judge is looking at the rabbit. Keep those things to yourself, and just really don't make disrespectful comments at all. I have seen or heard a few people who will make comments when a rabbit is up on the table, and it's really just not the time or place. If you want to comment on a person's rabbit, I guess keep it to yourself. Keep it as an inside thought unless that person is paying or asking for your advice. Don't talk to exhibitors while they are showing. Feel free to talk to people in the show hall, like the area right outside the actual tables, but don't talk to them when they have their rabbits on the table, because most likely they are trying to pay attention to what the judge is saying. Some judges are really good about projecting their voices, and they're very, very easy to hear. Other judges are a little quieter, and you have to put on your best listening ear and lean in to hear what they're saying, because sometimes the showgrounds are also really loud. So you really just want to make sure that you're not contributing to that noise, as exhibitors may be trying to listen to what that judge has to say about their rabbit. Alternatively, don't talk to the judge while the judge is judging that rabbit or is judging rabbits. There's normally a time where between breeds you can go up and ask the judge questions. That would be the time to talk to them when they're not actively judging. One thing that is a huge pet peeve, and if you're in any forums or Facebook groups, you will see it come up, is don't go into the showroom with 17 chairs and a whole bunch of playpens and cages spread out everywhere. Most showgrounds are smaller and very cramped, so try to take up as minimal of a footprint as you possibly can. Personally, I keep my carriers stacked when I'm waiting. One, it's just easier to grab it when I hear my breed called, but then also I take up a much less of a footprint to have cages stacked 3 high than if I were to I just let out a big sigh than if I was to have those cages spread out all around me. The other exhibitors aren't going to be able to walk. People are going to be tripping. Just keep as small of a footprint as you possibly can. Don't alter your rabbit's appearance in any way. You would be surprised. People can be tempted to color in nails or do some color correction on the fur. Pluck out white hairs is a really common one, because stray white hairs is a common DQ. How your rabbit naturally is how they have to show. If they have something that would need to be altered to meet standard, that is not a show rabbit, and don't try to show them. I already commented on don't make any disrespectful comments. Don't make good comments either, and I know that seems a little counterproductive. While the judge is judging, just don't comment on the rabbit. When the rabbit comes off the table, feel free to go up to that exhibitor and be like, I loved your rabbit, they were so beautiful, that's fine. But while the judge is judging the rabbit, just don't make any comments. And then don't leave any trash around. People can be really gross, so pick up your trash. That seems like such a basic thing, but you would be surprised the amount of trash that people would leave behind. So just be really respectful to the location. It is a privilege that we get to use these venues to show our rabbits, and we really want to make sure that we're being respectful to the venues. Most shows are run by volunteers, so those volunteers who've already had a long day are then having to stay and clean up your trash. So just pick up anything that you left behind. If you see something left behind and you have a spare second, pick it up and throw it in the trash. And generally just be respectful. But I've always had a really fun time at shows. They're a really upbeat environment. 99% of the people that you meet are going to be very friendly and want to talk about their rabbits. So enjoy it. Have a great time. I'm sure you will. And maybe I'll actually get to see you at a show one day. But